Welcome to all of you. I am Sachin Patil. We will lecture on rotational dynamics in Sankalpa education. My channel name is All Is Our Way, and you will get the first lecture related to rotational dynamics, in which we will get the recall points like circular motion, kinematical equations, pseudo and real forces. Right now we are going with the next point is related to non-uniform circular motion. In non-uniform circular motion, we know that the speed of particle increase or decrease in circular motion, then it is called non-uniform circular motion. What is it mean? First of all, we have to get the consideration related to the speed of particle increases or decreases in circular motion. What does it mean? When fan, for example, fan is on at that time speed increases, and if fan is off, speed decreases. That means what? If when we switched on the fan, we will get the speed of fan is increases, and at that time it is not a constant uniform speed, and therefore it is a increase in speed. And if fan is off, at that time speed is decreasing. That means a decrease in speed in circular motion, and therefore it is a non-uniform circular motion. In non-uniform circular motion, velocity is always tangential, but magnitude of AR bar, that is, what is the AR bar? It is a radial or centripetal acceleration is not constant here. What does it mean? First of all, we think about the not constant. That means in uniform circular motion, we know that the centripetal acceleration or radial acceleration, which is acting towards the center, it is a constant. But inside the non-uniform circular motion, velocity is always tangential. That means when we consider the circular motion is here, and you will get the centripetal acceleration which is acting towards the center, and velocity is always tangential to that circle, and therefore if particle is moving in an anti-clockwise direction, and therefore it is a velocity is still along the tangent, but magnitude of centripetal acceleration is not constant, and therefore it is a non-uniform circular motion. When tangential velocity, you know that upon the consideration acceleration is responsible, and this acceleration is responsible for changing magnitude of velocity along or opposite to velocity, which is tangential acceleration AT bar. Tangential acceleration AT bar. What does it mean? Acceleration is now useful to change the velocity, or acceleration is a cause of changing the velocity, but the magnitude it is opposite to velocity or along the velocity. It depends on the increasing or decreasing of the speed. For first of all, we have to take the consideration of for increasing speed, increasing speed, alpha, that is angular acceleration is along the direction of angular velocity, that is omega bar. And second one is for decreasing speed, alpha, that is angular acceleration is opposite to the direction of angular velocity, that is omega bar. What do you mean that one? First of all, we have to get the consideration like that one. In that case, first of all, we have to think this is the circular motion. Particle moves in a anti-clockwise direction, and omega, and another one is we considered this is the circular motion and particle moves in an anti-clockwise direction. It is also angular velocity is in the same direction that of we will take the consideration, and here angular velocity is in this way, angular velocity omega bar. Here we also get the angular velocity omega bar. So right now, first of all, we have to think about the angular velocity. When for increasing speed, that means when we on the fan, at that time speed of fan is increases, at that time you will get the consideration of alpha is along the angular velocity, but inside the opposite condition, that means fan is off, at that time velocity of fan decreases or speed is decreases, at that time alpha is opposite to the direction of angular velocity. That means in increasing condition, omega and alpha are both in the same direction, and in a decreasing condition, alpha and omega both are opposite to each other. That is a consideration related to angular non-uniform circular motion. In non-uniform circular motion, we know that the speed of particle increases or decreases in circular motion, then it is called non-uniform circular motion. For example, fan is on, at that time speed is increases, and fan is off, at that time speed is decreases, and therefore the centripetal acceleration which is acting towards the center, it is not constant, and which is responsible for the changing the magnitude of the velocity along or opposite to the velocity. For increasing the speed, alpha is along the direction of angular velocity, and for decreasing the speed, it is opposite to the direction of angular velocity, which is given inside the diagram like that one. First of all, we have to think that alpha along any direction other than axial condition, it will have component perpendicular to the axis, and therefore it will change the direction of omega, and will change the plane of rotation, as omega is always perpendicular to the plane of rotation. What does it mean? First of all, if alpha bar changes direction other than axis, it will have component perpendicular to axis, thus it will change direction of omega, and therefore plane of rotation also changes because or as omega is always perpendicular to plane of rotation. What does it mean? First of all, we have to think the consideration of that related considerations. First of all, we think that this is the circular motion. In circular motion, particle moves in anti-clockwise direction. Right now, we have to get the consideration of this is the axis of rotation. Which is passing through the center of this is the axis of rotation. Right now, first of all, we think about that. Let us consider alpha changes its direction. That means alpha is moving in that direction. Alpha bar is here. Right now, alpha is changes the direction. At that time, the component of alpha is along the axis of the rotation, but alpha changes, then angular velocity also changes its direction. That means angular velocity moving in this way because it is along or opposite to the direction. And at that time, you will take the consideration like that one. Alpha and omega are in the same direction. At that time, plane of rotation is changes. That means omega is always perpendicular to the rotation plane. It is work in a gyroscope, and therefore the plane of rotation also changes for that of the non-uniform circular motion, inside which first of all we have to think the consideration of non-uniform circular motion. What is the non-uniform circular motion? Increasing or decreasing speed of particle in circular motion, and it is a non-uniform circular motion. In this consideration, that means in the non-uniform circular motion, speed of particle increases or decreases. That means, for example, fan is on or off, you will get the not constant radial acceleration. And inside this, first of all, we have to think the angular acceleration, which is along the angular velocity if speed of particle is increases, and opposite to the angular velocity if speed is decreases, which is shown inside the figure. Increasing or decreasing speed of particle at the time omega and alpha are along and opposite to the direction of angular velocity. If alpha changes the direction, at that time its component is perpendicular to the axis, and at that time you will get the consideration of changing the direction of omega also, but omega is always perpendicular to the plane of rotation, and therefore you will get the change in the direction of plane of rotation. Plane of rotation is also changes, and this is your consideration related to non-uniform circular motion. Right now we are going with the consideration of analogous quantities inside the translational and translational motion and rotational motion. Now we are going with the kinematical analogous conditions. If alpha is constant, at that time theta, omega, alpha are along axis of rotation, axis of rotation, axis of rotation, and analogous kinematical equations with translational motion, and it gives analogous quantities in translational motion, and rotational motion, translational motion and rotational motion. First of all, we have to get a consideration of V average is equal to U plus V divided by 2. At that time here we will get the considerations like that one. Omega average is equal to omega 0 plus omega divided by 2. Here V average is a linear average velocity or average linear velocity. It is nothing but a average of initial linear velocity and final linear velocity. U is called as initial linear velocity and V is a final velocity. Here V is a initial linear velocity and V is a final linear velocity. Here same as that of it is in a rotational motion, omega average, that means average angular velocity is nothing but a average of initial angular velocity and final angular velocity, where omega 0 is initial angular velocity and omega is a final angular velocity. And as that of same consideration of first kinematical equations related to that translational motion is acceleration is equal to rate of change of linear velocity with respect to time. It is nothing but a change in velocity divided by time, and therefore you will get the V is equal to U plus AT, where V is the final linear velocity, U is the initial linear velocity, A is the acceleration. Here A is the acceleration and T is the time. And this is your first consideration. Similarly, you will get the angular velocity is nothing but a rate of change of angular displacement with respect to time. Rate of angular acceleration is alpha. It is the rate of change of angular velocity with respect to time. It is nothing but a change in angular velocity, that means final angular velocity minus initial angular velocity divided by 2, and therefore divided by t, rate of change is nothing but a rate of change of angular velocity with respect to time, final angular velocity minus initial angular velocity divided by time. You will get the final angular velocity is equal to initial angular velocity plus alpha into t. Alpha is the angular acceleration and t is the time. Once again you will get a consideration of this one. It is a second kinematical equation related to that one. Now we are going with the third kinematical equation. It's nothing but S is equal to, S is a linear displacement, S is equal to linear average linear velocity into time. What is the average linear velocity? The equation you will get the average linear velocity is nothing but a u plus v divided by 2 putting inside the equation, and t is the value of t is taken from this equation. You will get the S is equal to ut plus 1 half at square. S is the linear displacement. S is a linear displacement. Is u is the linear velocity, u is the linear initial linear velocity, t is the time, a is the linear acceleration, t is the time, and you will get the third linear velocity, third rotational analogous rotational kinematical equation is nothing but theta is equal to omega average into t, where theta is the angular displacement. Theta is the angular displacement, and by putting the omega a average and t, you will get the theta is equal to omega 0 into t plus 1 half alpha t square, 1 half alpha t square, where theta is the angular displacement. Right now you will get the fourth equation is v square is equal to u square plus 2as. Similarly here you will get the omega square is equal to omega 0 square plus 2 alpha theta. Similarly here v is the linear, it is a final linear velocity, it is the initial linear velocity, is the acceleration, linear acceleration, yes is a linear displacement, omega is the final angular velocity, omega 0 is the initial angular velocity, alpha is the angular acceleration, and theta is the angular displacement. These are the four equations related to translational and rotational motion, which are analogous with each other in a kinematical conditions. Right now we are going with the consideration. Now we are going with the dynamics of circular motion. Dynamics of circular motion. Dynamics of circular motion. Dynamics of circular motion, it contains, first of all we have to take the consideration of centripetal and centrifugal force. We will go in with the consideration of centripetal force, and another one is a centrifugal force. Another one is a centrifugal force. In centripetal force, you have to consider with the consideration of the force. The force provides centripetal acceleration is called centripetal force. That means the force which provides the centripetal acceleration, it is called as the centripetal force, and centripetal force is given as minus m omega square r bar. Negative sign indicates that centripetal force and radius vector are opposite to each other, and centripetal force is nothing but it is a center seeking force. It is a center seeking force. Center seeking force means it is acting towards the center, acting towards center, and in a circular motion, resultant force acting towards center, which is acting towards center, it is in inertial frame of reference, inertial frame of reference, having magnitude is equal to m omega square r. In centripetal force, first of all we have to think the consideration as a centripetal force is a force providing the centripetal acceleration. It is called a centripetal force, and the force equal in magnitude to the resultant real forces but opposite to the direction. That means it is acting away from the center. It is acting away from center. It is a pseudo force. It is a pseudo force. That is not a real force. It is not a completely imaginary force, because it is pseudo force. It is a not imaginary force. It is a not real force, because it is measured by using instruments in a inertial frame of references, and it is balances the centrifugal force, exactly balance the resultant. It balances resultant of all real forces, and therefore in frame of reference, the resultant forces is 0. Therefore here resultant real force is equal to minus m omega square r. Therefore m omega square r plus summation of all real force is equal to 0. For example, we have to consider the centripetal force. For example, here example of that centripetal force is when vehicle moves on curved road, the friction between tires and road provides or gives centripetal force. And for example of that centrifugal force is when vehicle moves on curved road, the passengers in vehicle experience centrifugal force. What does it mean? First of all, we have to go in with the centripetal force and centrifugal force. Centripetal force is nothing but the force which is providing the centripetal acceleration, and it having the equation CPF is equal to, that means centripetal force is equal to minus m omega square r bar, where negative sign indicates what? Radius vector and centripetal force are opposite to each other, which is given inside the diagrammatical representation in following way. Centripetal force is a center setting force. That means it is acting toward the center, and it is in an inertial frame of references. Its magnitude like that one, m omega square r. And when vehicle moves on a curved road, then friction between tires and road gives the centripetal force, which is necessary for moving vehicle on the curved road. Centrifugal force, at that time centrifugal force is there also, force which is equal in magnitude of the all resultant of all real forces, but it is opposite in the direction, because when centripetal force is acting toward the center, at that time centrifugal force is acting away from the center, and it is a pseudo force. It is a not real force, it is not imaginary force, because it is measured by using instruments, and therefore it is a not imaginary force. It is a balances the resultant of all real forces. That means in a frame of references resultant force is 0, and therefore resultant force resultant real force is equal to minus m omega square r, which is the resultant force and which is nothing but a centrifugal force, and therefore m omega square r plus summation of all real forces is nothing but a 0, and therefore inside the consideration of this dynamic consideration of real force and non-real force or pseudo forces, first of all we take the consideration of, later to consider it is a circular motion. Inside the center is here. At that time radius vector is drawn from center to the position of particle. Later to consider position of particle is here. Radius vector is given in this direction r. At that time centripetal force is acting toward the center, and this is the CPF, and both are opposite to each other, and therefore you will get the negative sign inside the equation of CPF. Same consideration here, we will take the consideration of this is a circular motion, and at that time center is here, and the position of particle is here. At that time you will take the consideration of this is the radius vector, and centrifugal force is also in this direction, that means r bar, and centrifugal force CFF is equal to in this direction, and therefore CFF centrifugal force is equal to m omega square r bar. This is the magnitude of the centrifugal force, and those are the equations related to that one. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, then subscribe my channel to get the next lecture series related to that rotational dynamics, and always with the circular motion, always with the physics, new syllabus related to our H.S.C examination point of view. Thank you.